Is the Senate Judiciary Committee about to confirm a gang rapist to the highest court in the land? Stay tuned to find out. Spoiler warning, the answer is no. Hello, and welcome to the show, 3 C's of Me, where we talk about conviction, cognition, over a cup of coffee. We have complicated conversations that don't end in killing people, hopefully. Here to join me today on the show is my son, Callan, who will be providing expert input into the conversation. Without further ado, let's get to this question. Yeah, so the answer is no. So now that the too long didn't watch version's out of the way, and I've got your answer within the first minute of the video, hit like if you prefer having the question answered in the first minute and a half versus the last 20 minutes. Anyway, so we should not come at this question about this whole thing, the Kavanaugh hearing, from a perspective of who do I believe, okay? This isn't about who puts on the best performance or who do we believe. This is about, if we're going to be intellectually, factually honest, which is our goal here, it's about what's true, what is actually true. Not his truth or her truth. Let's just take a rabbit trail off of this for a second. We don't get to determine our own truth, okay? That negates the word truth. It doesn't just change based on your perception of it. That's not how truth works. We, as a society, have a language and we collectively agree on what words mean, and we have a social contract in place that binds us to using these words properly as long as we know what the word means, in accordance with these agreed upon definitions. If there's no such thing as objective truth, then our entire way of life is going to collapse, because if you just suddenly believe that everything that is blue is green, though, then we can't really get along. You've broken the social contract. Isn't that right? Yes. And the color green doesn't care about what you think of it. Scientifically, objectively, the color green is the color green. There are shades of green, there are shades of blue, but green is green and blue is blue. And if you get up in a court of law and somebody asks you under oath, is this green or is this blue? And you lie intentionally and say that it is green when it is in fact blue, you will be convicted for lying under oath. That's how truth works. If you can verifiably tell objectively that it is something, and you say it is another thing, it doesn't matter if it's your version of reality, it's not our version of reality, and we, as a group of people, agree on what is real and what is not, with our words, our language, and our legal structure. All right, all of that being said, I don't really have a huge tolerance for people messing around with the truth and what is actually true. As a society, like I said, we agree on certain things to be true. Certain methods as well for obtaining that truth. One of those, most notable, is the scientific method. By using the scientific method, we can determine with certainty some things that are true, some things that are not true. I've covered objective truth in another video, I believe, but for recap, objective truth means in accordance with reality, independent of a mind to perceive it. That means if there were no humans on Earth, the Earth would still exist. That would still be true. It would still be round, spherical, elliptical, whatever. It wouldn't be flat. That would still be true. There would still be a sun. That would still be true. This is not up for debate. This has been scientifically proven to be true. Okay? You tell them. These things don't depend on humans existing to be true or not. Okay? Objective truth. So Ford versus Kavanaugh, who is right? And what is true? Let's start with Kavanaugh, because I feel like I'm going to have to spend a lot of time on Ford, unfortunately. During this Senate hearing, which, in case you didn't know, is a perfectly legitimate and legal method of investigation, viable form of determining truth. The Senate can have their hearing and everything. It's not court of law, it's not the FBI, but they can come to conclusions about truth at their committee, and it's legal, it's fine. And they, the Senate Judiciary Committee, will have to determine at the end of the day whether they confirm, whether an FBI investigation is done or not. They get to decide if he becomes the Supreme Court, not anybody else. So in this hearing, he offered against the accusations of sexual misconduct or sexual assault or rape or whatever it is, a calendar that indicated that he was not in town during the summer of 1982, a geographical defense saying that he didn't even live near this area that he was claimed to have been at, and his own testimony, which testimony is a form of evidence. So, in order of strength, I would say that geography may be the weakest argument, calendar being the strongest argument. Who keeps a calendar in high school? If you don't do that now, you should start keeping a calendar, because who knows, in 30 years you might have to submit that as a form of evidence to say like, no, I didn't do this thing. So props to him, man. He is, wow, crazy. So Dr. Ford, she submitted her testimony and 4 witnesses to the event. Okay, she had a very compelling, believable testimony, recounted the events that happened. Unfortunately, the witnesses that she called all deny knowing Kavanaugh, being at the party, or that he even did it. In fact, there are 2 people that have claimed that she may have mistaken him for them. Did I get that right? She may have mistaken them for him, and that they were the perpetrators of this crime. Wait, is that right? Senator Grassley has not disclosed the men's name nor details about why he believed. The Democrats and Judiciary weren't aware of the men's claims until the timeline was released by Republicans on Wednesday. That Hillary Kavanaugh's repeatedly denied. I never did anything recently. For the attorneys. Oh, yes, Ford did do a polygraph. Not admissible in court, and no one really takes those seriously anymore because you can fool them. Whatever, the lawyers paid for a polygraph and they say, does not indicate that she was guilty. Okay, fine, whatever. For the benefit of the doubt, sure, she passed a polygraph. She's able to pass a polygraph. That's all that indicates. Nobody's claiming that sexual assault did not happen. Nobody's saying that didn't happen. We believe her, treat her with respect. The Judiciary Committee has bent over backwards to accommodate for her. This isn't something like, well, we just don't believe you. No, she was given the opportunity to be heard. There's a long story. She said that she had a fear of flying and she didn't want to testify and stuff like that. And they were like, well, we can come to her. She ended up did flying. And she flies a lot, according to that came out. There's a lot going on there. So my question is, if there are 2 people, unnamed, that have admitted to this might have actually happened to, they might have done this and not Brett Kavanaugh, why are we still on Brett Kavanaugh? It's if somebody admits to a crime, that is more admissible than somebody's eyewitness testimony. Eyewitness testimony has been proven time and time again to not be very reliable. Why do we put eyewitness testimony above everything else? Subjectively? Well, if you can tell a really good story and you can get people on your side, then it's easier to ignore facts and just go with feelings because we feel sorry for her. And that's fine. Feel sorry for her. But feeling sorry for people is not a factual, objective, reasonable approach to determining criminal activity. I also want to talk about the fact that she wrote a letter to a senator, and the senator did not release this letter. It was leaked to the media somehow. She says she didn't. She says her staff didn't. She totally throws Dr. Ford under the bus, by the way. This is Feinstein, I believe. Totally throws Dr. Ford under the bus, saying, well, I didn't leak it. My staff didn't leak it. Oh, okay, let's be reasonable here. If 3 people have the letter, and 2 of these people say they didn't leak it, that means that you are inadvertently saying the other person leaked it. That's saying Dr. Ford leaked her own letter that she asked the senator to keep confidential. Okay. Who do we believe? Do we believe the Democratic senator? Do we believe the psychologist? I don't know. We don't have evidence. We don't know who leaked the outfit. So everybody says they didn't do it. Nobody did it. Maybe the press stole it. Who knows? But anyway, there's some problems with this whole letter thing, though. If Dr. Ford wrote in saying that she was sexually assaulted, the first thing you should do if you have somebody confiding in you that they have been sexually assaulted is to tell the authorities. That is the first thing that you should always do. If a crime is committed, the first people to know should be the police. She seemed to be very terrified of testifying. She didn't want to fly. She didn't want to do it in front of people. She didn't want to do it under oath. Okay. Which one is easier? To tell an investigator confidentially in private what happened that night and let them corroborate and let them investigate and let them do what they do? Or is it easier and less terrifying to go in front of a judiciary committee, one of the highest ranking sets of people in power, with cameras and news stories and everything flashing in your face, and then recount the events of that night? Which one is easier to do? There's no question about this. It is easier to talk about these things in private with somebody that you trust and go over it like that. It is not easy to go up in front of people, in front of millions of screens, and know that millions of people are going to watch you. That is terrifying. Don't care who you are. About what? Public speaking terrifies people more than death. Look it up. So if she was so concerned about truth, why did she not go to authorities? If the senator was so concerned about truth, why did she not go to authorities? If you're concerned about truth getting out, if you're concerned that something illegal has occurred, your responsibility is to go to the authorities, because the authorities are the only ones with the rights to take care of criminal investigation and prosecution. That is what they're trained to do. Okay. So she didn't go to the authorities. Okay. Fine. Why would she have gone directly to a senator? Is there no one else she could have told? Wait, she did tell her psychologist, her therapist, one therapist to another. Well, I don't think she's actually a therapist. She's a psychologist of some degree, though. She did tell her therapist. Her therapist did not write down that it was Brett Kavanaugh in this recounting of the events. Dr. Ford blames the therapist for not doing that, but that's a really crummy therapist if you take down notes during a session and this person says, "Oh, I was sexually assaulted." Oh, well, by who? It doesn't matter. No, I'm pretty sure if the therapist was told the name, she would have written it down. Or she didn't. She's incompetent and should be fired. Take her license away. Sexual assault is not a joke. And it should be taken very seriously in any case at any point in time. That being said, sexual assault allegations with no evidence do not carry the same weight as actual sexual assault with evidence. That's why you go to the authorities, so evidence can be gained, so an investigation can happen. Because if it did happen, it needs to be investigated and justice needs to happen. The person that did it needs to be punished. We as a society have agreed on that. That has been the law for a very long time. Unfortunately, we as a society have allowed this continuation of it's acceptable behavior for men to be stupid, arrogant jackwagons and do things that are completely unacceptable. And then threaten women if they ever decide to want to speak out against these things. So yeah, it's a big deal. And if talking about it is hard, it doesn't mean you shouldn't talk about it. It doesn't mean you shouldn't go to the authorities. It doesn't mean that you should be silent. It's difficult, but lots of things in life are. Just because a thing is difficult does not inherently mean that you should not do it. In fact, some of the most difficult things to do are the things that are the best things for us to do. Building habits is difficult. Brushing your teeth every day, doing everything that's right, eating properly, exercise. These are difficult things to get done and master and have habits and do these. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do them because they're difficult. So I get it's hard. But that's not an excuse for not doing something about it. And like, oh, you're a white man. Why are you saying anything about it? Okay, well, that is also a logical fallacy. The fact that I'm not a woman does not mean that I cannot logically argue from the perspective of a woman. The fact that I am not a woman does not necessarily mean that I cannot use logical arguments in defense of women. If that were true, then there should be no male lawyers. Let's get something straight. Your gender doesn't make you special. If you're male or female or some spectrum in between, one gender is not inherently more ethical, moral, more understanding, more anything. Gender does not make you special. So let's get on to something else that's been going around. This whole believe all women movement, okay? Really? Really? Believe all women. Do we need to even talk about this? There are certain levels of ridiculous that you just... Do I have to explain why bringing gender into this is unhelpful and disingenuous and intellectually ridiculous? You can't just make a blatant statement, okay? Why? That's sexist. Wait, women can't be sexist. Yes, they can. The definition of sexist, and if we agree to use the definitions that society agrees upon that are in the dictionary that we have as a society accepted and we are socially obligated to uphold these definitions, sexism is making any type of discrimination based on someone's gender or sex. And if you say that you should believe all women, which, okay, the inverse of that is do not believe all men, or maybe you could extrapolate from that all men are liars, well, that's ridiculous and sexist. What if you turned it around the other way and you said believe all men and that all women are not to be trusted? That would not fly at all. So this whole bit about believe all women, just stop it. It's intellectually dishonest. It doesn't hold up. It's not reasonable. There are better arguments. There are better arguments, I promise you, okay? So, where are we at here? What is going on? Well, the FBI is going to do an investigation. They're going to look at the accusations that have been put forth. They're going to do their thing. They're going to do what the FBI does. And then we'll see what happens from there. One other thing I'm going to point out. One of the biggest critiques from Kavanaugh's hearing was the fact that he got angry, aggressive, and emotional. And that somebody of his caliber should not act like that. Well, okay, sure. Under normal circumstances, I would agree. Under the accusation of a crime, I don't agree. When you're accused of something, you get very emotional. If you're trying to defend yourself, you get emotional. So I don't care that he got emotional. I don't care that Dr. Ford got emotional. Recounting traumatic events can be emotional. Reliving traumatic events is emotional. I get it. Yes. I don't fault either one of them for being emotional during this time. It's stressful. There's millions of people watching. There's a lot on the line. It's a big deal. It's dramatic. People are going to get emotional. It doesn't matter if you're a judge or you're a doctor. She's a psychologist. She's a doctor. Shouldn't anybody, if anybody is able to hold it together under extreme situations, shouldn't it be the person that devoted her life to studying the brain and knowing how emotions work? Also, these protesters that, for the sake of argument, probably are what changed Senator Flake's mind. There was no logic or reason in anything they said. It was completely emotional. They were way out of line. Why isn't nobody talking about how that should not have been done? Sure, they're random citizens. Why do we have different expectations of a judge or a doctor or random citizens? Human beings are human beings, and if one human being can control their emotions, so can another human being. These protesters should not be getting away with using illogical, emotional arguments to sway a vote for the Supreme Court. That's not okay. That's biased, and that shouldn't have any place. There's a reason why the public is not on the Senate Judiciary Committee able to just voice all their opinions, okay? Another thing, the Democrats that walked out of the hearing when they were going to vote, they did it in protest. I don't care. They are there to represent the people, okay? If you walk out of that committee, you're telling your constituency that you're not representing them in that hearing. You're not there on their behalf. You're not there because of your own opinions. You are there to represent the people that voted you there into office. And if you walk out on that, if you walk out of this committee, if you walk out, even in protest, you're doing it on behalf of the people, No, you're making you, by walking out, have then eliminated your entire constituency's voice in that room. Even if you vote no and you're outvoted, at least you were there to represent the people. And by walking out, you are sending a message to the people that voted for you, that put you in office as a senator, that it's not about them, it's about you. And you can spin that any way you want to, but I guarantee you that if you go to the districts that nominated those senators, there are a significant amount of people that would have wanted them to stay in that room and be that voice for the people. That's what the senators are there for. That's what representation means. The people cannot be there, so they want the senators to act on their behalf. And by walking out in a rage, having a fit because you didn't get an FBI investigation, that's unprofessional and that's just as, I think, unacceptable as anything else that you could say is unacceptable. I think it's more unacceptable than a protester being angry, or Brett Kavanaugh getting upset during a testimony, or Dr. Ford crying during her testimony. The fact that these people, these senators, are supposed to be representing all the people in their constituency, not just the Democrats, and they will walk out when they don't get their way, and I think that's unacceptable. Sure, you could say that it's in the best interest of the people for an FBI investigation to be done. Sure. But getting upset and walking out of a hearing, is that really going to get your way? That looks like a 2-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. And that's not what I would expect of a senator or a judge or anybody. Now, this presumption of guilt on behalf of Kavanaugh, that's ridiculous as well. According to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 11, everyone charged with a penal offense has the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty according to the law in a public trial in which he has the guarantees necessary for defense. Just because someone makes a rape allegation against a man does not mean you can presume him to be guilty without the evidence to support it. And if we say that that's okay, then why, if that's okay, then there's a million other things that just go out the window at that point, because then you can make an accusation that a woman did something, and without the burden of, if a positive claim is met with, the one who makes a positive claim is the one that has the burden of proof. If you claim something, you have the burden of proof to say that it happened. The person that you're accusing does not have the burden of proof of proving that they're innocent. No, that's not how it works. If you claim this coffee mug exists, then you have the burden of proof to prove to me that it exists. And if you don't have the proof, I have no obligation to prove that it does not exist. So the presumed guilty thing needs to just go away. The last thing I'm going to talk about was, goodness gracious, I watched this live, and then for an hour after all of this live streaming, they played this clip 3 times over and over again on NBC or CBS. Oh. What happened was Senator Flake was trying to get on an elevator, and then protesters start yelling at him. You know what? I'll show clips just because I want to respond to their arguments one by one.
They should just stay quiet, because if they tell you what happened to them, you're going to ignore them. Don't look away from me. Look at me and tell me that it doesn't matter what happened to me.
Look at me and tell me that it doesn't matter what happened to me. Okay, this logic is stating that if you vote for Kavanaugh, what happened to sexual assault survivors does not matter. How does that follow? Okay, look at this deductively or inductively. I don't care. Let's just apply some logic to this. If Kavanaugh, who has been accused of sexual assault, is appointed as a Supreme Court justice, then you, Senator Flake, are telling sexual assault survivors that their sexual assault does not matter. Why? How? Especially if he's innocent. What if he's innocent? What if it's proven unequivocally that he is innocent? Does it still say that sexual assault victims aren't important? No. Sexual assault victims are important. No matter who is on the Supreme Court. You should always come forward and tell your story to the authorities and have an investigation done and find the evidence and convict the people that sexually assaulted you. Every time, all the time, no matter what. It does not matter what kind of vote is done on the Supreme Court. That does not dictate what you do with your life. Other people making decisions about other people is not telling you that you should not do what you know to be right. This is illogical and this is ridiculous.
That you let people like that go into the highest court of the land and tell everyone what they can do to their bodies.
Do you have an answer, Senator?
Wait. Did she just say something about this judge will be able to tell women what they can do with their bodies? Wait. Does this person think that this has anything to do with Roe v. Wade? Are they terrified of Kavanaugh getting on the Supreme Court because he might vote to overrule Roe versus Wade, which has been objectively verified to be responsible for legalizing abortion, which has ended the lives of hundreds of millions of babies in the United States alone? You want to argue that it's not a life? Go right ahead. Science is not on your side. Science indicates, the data indicates that life is a continuation. Life is a continuation, that the cells in an egg and the cells in a sperm cell are continuation of life. And so a fertilized egg cell is life, and when you kill it, you end life. If it starts to form an embryo, you're killing life when you abort the baby. Sorry, not sorry, it's truth. That's the way it is, objective fact. And you can feel differently about it if you want to, but science isn't on your side. Sorry. And we as a society have agreed the scientific method is the best way of finding out what is true. And again, talking about the difference between genders, that a man on the Supreme Court is not allowed to make laws concerning reproductive health, logically doesn't hold up. Sorry.
Do you think that President Kavanaugh is telling the truth? Do you think that he's able to hold the pain of this country and repair it? That is the work of justice. The way that justice works is you take this part, you take responsibility for it, and then you begin to repair it. You're allowing someone who is unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions, unwilling to hold the harm that he has done to one woman, actually 3 women, and repair it. You are allowing someone who is unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions to sit in the higher court of the country and to have the role of repairing the harm that has been done in this country to many people. No, thank you. What do you think? No, I want to talk to him. What do you think? I understand, but tell me, I'm standing right here in front of you. What do you have? Do you think that he's telling the truth? No. Do you think that he's telling the truth to the country? You have power, so many women are powerless.
You just released a press statement. You don't have the courage.
I'd be happy to talk to you.
Can you not give them an answer, Senator? You just released a press statement. You don't have the courage to give them an answer? Thank you's not an answer, Senator.
Okay. I don't even know what the argument was there. Let me think about this for a second. So she's saying he is unwilling to take responsibility for his own actions and repair the hurt that's been done. Okay, so if he's guilty, sure, that's legitimate. If he's not guilty, then what hurt? So this lady is arguing from a presumed guilty stance, which is ridiculous. Now I would like to add that what we just saw is not justice. And that's not how courts are ran, and that's not how decisions about Supreme Court judges should be made. What just happened is, I think, far more dangerous than anything else. And what just happened is these protesters just proved that if enough people start yelling at other people about things that they don't like, then that's the best way to get what they want. Senator Flake just proved by holding off on the yes vote and calling for an investigation that if enough people yell at you about being upset, then you'll cave to that. That the best way for people to get what they want is to just confront you in a hallway and yell at you about how unfair it is and how terrible of a person you are. Is it really what we've come to? The best way to get someone to do what you want is not to yell at them until they cave in. That's immature, that's unprofessional, that's not right. Why is it different when it comes to sexual assault? Why is it different when it comes to anything else? Our system is not built on whoever yells the loudest should be right. That's not how things should be. All right? It shouldn't be that if you can yell loud enough, if you can say that you've been oppressed enough, if you can say that you are the biggest victim, that you are automatically right. No. If sexual assault has happened and it can be verified and proven to have happened, it should be met with the full extent of the law. But baseless accusations that don't have any evidence to support them should not be taken at face value, because if that is the precedent, then that will ruin people's lives. And it has. And it's not something we should take lightly. So where do we go from here? If you take anything that I've said as somehow that I am against sexual assault victims coming forward, that I think women are not credible, that I have anything against the entire gender of women or any other gender, that I think Dr. Ford is making things up, that I think Brett Kavanaugh is completely right in any sense of the word. If you take anything out of this, outside of what I've actually said, then I don't know. Take what I've said for what I've said, extrapolate to some degree, if you will, but don't come to conclusions that are completely way out there, because that's very frustrating. If you want to use logic, come to a conclusion, and it follows, and it makes sense, fine. If something I've said isn't right, doesn't make sense, is wrong, completely off base, feel free to let me know. If you're going to use what I've said, and then come up with some sort of ad hominem attack on my character or something like that, or accuse me of something that I didn't say, or take something I said in this video out of context, then just don't bother. Don't, please. Let's be decent about this. It's the whole point of the show, is to talk about complicated things without getting, irrational about it. Now, alright, anyway, that's my spiel. That's it. That's all from me. If you like this video, then do all the things that you're supposed to do on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Comment down below with your thoughts and your opinions. Until my next video, which I hope will be totally different than this. Be reasonable, people.